The first story for today comes from the user Blackbird Lele. I had a nice coworker. I moved to a city in Kentucky recently with my mother. I was looking for my very first part-time job during the first month we moved here. After the first 3 months, I was finally accepted to one of the fast food restaurants I applied to. It was McDonald's, which was great because it was close to where we lived. During my first shift working there, I was terribly nervous. I suffer with social anxiety, so talking to someone was a big challenge for me, but hey, I wanted the money. It was pretty hectic there. I would constantly struggle with the orders and working the deep fryer. Until this guy named Jason Morax would come help me by giving me some tips. He was a really nice guy. He said he has been working at this job for years. I'm surprised he isn't higher up, for that day it was extremely stressful before he helped me. After that, it became less stressful. The next day at my job, I noticed him sitting near the window staring at the wall. I walked towards him asking if he's alright. It was the least I could do since he helped me all day yesterday. He turned toward me and said, "No, I'm fine. Be careful with the deep fryer." So I shrugged him off and didn't feel like reporting to others that he wasn't working. I figured he was just having a bad day. During the shift, I went to go to speak to him again. I noticed the two girls I work with were giving me these disgusted faces. I didn't get along with them. They would constantly start talking to each other. They weren't doing their job. I'm honestly surprised they weren't fired. Anywho, I would never get along with them, not ever. After my shift, I went home. I was still concerned for Jason. He seemed pretty down for someone who was jolly while giving me tips the other day. I hope he's in better spirits tomorrow. The next day I went to work, everyone was there, except for Jason. He must have taken a sick day off or something, so I didn't want to bother anybody by asking about him. I carried on my job working, and while I was working, one of the girls that I disliked ended up setting a grease fire in the kitchen. I managed to grab a fire extinguisher and put it out. She ended up getting in trouble by our manager since she wasn't paying attention to the oil. This is why I always pay attention while I'm cooking. After my shift was over, I had the whole weekend free for myself, and it was fun. I was still wondering if Jason was feeling alright. I should have asked for his phone number. He seemed like a great guy. Next week on the job, Jason wasn't there. During the last couple of shifts, Jason still wasn't around. I was so confused. Was his shift changed or did he quit? I was just curious if he was still here, so I asked Marie, who is the manager, asked if Jason had quit his job or something. Marie looked confused. She looked like she didn't understand my question at all, so I asked her again. She was still silent. I was asking, "Hello, are you alright?" Then she finally replied to me. Her answer put me in disbelief. "There was nobody working here named Jason." I was starting to panic. Basically, I said, "What do you mean?" "Yeah, he was here. He was giving me tips on my first day." Marie shook her head, "No," and replied, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" while putting her hand on my arm. I brushed it off and yelled, "I'm telling the truth. There was a guy named Jason. His last name is Morax." Marie's face looked shocked to the last name I said because she knew it before. She replied, "Where did you hear that name?" I looked at her confused as hell, and I managed to speak up. "He told me his name, so that's how I know. Why?" What she told me still sends me shivers down my spine since that day. She replied saying, Jason Morax died 5 years ago from a grease fire accident here. At first, I thought it was a joke, but Marie looked so freaked out that it made me panic. Marie told me that I don't mention this to anyone. I agreed to her request, and I slowly continued my work in a state of panic. I was freaked out. This was real. I was actually talking to a ghost of a McDonald's worker. After my shift, I don't know what to think or feel. I was so lost and confused, but I will never forget the kind, helpful guy who helped me even when he was dead. The end. The second story for today comes from the Reddit user, Doc Winchester. I'm ready to sell my soul to get some sleep. I have long-term sleep problems. I'm desperate. I'm at a serious risk of being fired from my job because I'm always late. I can't concentrate and I'm messing everything up. The doctor prescribed me sleeping pills, but they don't help much. I've tried everything normal. I found an ad on the internet. Hey you the one reading this. You at the age of a breakdown. All the happiness is draining out of your life. I'll give you back everything you've ever been, and so much more. I don't want your money. Think of it as a gift. Such stupidity. Of course, he didn't want my money, but it sure won't be for free. I closed my laptop with anger and looked at unpaid bills on my desk. Oh, it is going to be the end of me. I sent a message to the strange man that called himself Your Destiny. Hey you, so I'm contacting you. If you're so smart, help me out. I'm sure you know who I am and what I need. He replied, You have to invite me. That's the rule. I don't understand. Invite where? I answer. Fine. It doesn't work that way. You have to write to me that you are inviting me, even with the word invite. Fine. I'm inviting you. Very good. Write me exactly what you want and you'll get it. I know what it is, but you have to write it for yourself. I want to have money and a promotion at work. It's done. Tomorrow you'll get it all. Now it's my turn. Will you give me what you want most but didn't mention in your wish? Nothing came to mind. After all, if I had money, I had everything. Take whatever you want. The next day, exactly what he predicted came true. I got a promotion at work and a raise. That's awesome. I can't wait to get home and finally get a good night's sleep. I climb happily into bed and I'm ready for sleep. But I fall asleep with my eyes open. It's not the kind of sleep I wanted. It's sleep paralysis. I'm terrified because I can't move. Out of the shadow comes something skinny and tall, dressed in a dark cape. It doesn't have a face. It has the skull of a snake. I'm scared to death. Am I having a nightmare? The skull of a snake approaches my head. Long claws plunge into my brain. An icy fear engulfs me. All I know is that something is going away from me. A gruff voice sounds in my head. You will never sleep again. I'm taking your sleep, and you're just going to watch it every night. Your biggest wish was to sleep, but you didn't mention it. You chose money instead. I am the demon of faith. You chose your destiny and suffering. The end. And the last story for today is a story called The Tall Figure. Maybe I'm overthinking things. Maybe it's all in my head, maybe I'm going crazy. I already know that if I try to tell anybody how I've been feeling, they would just tell me that I'm making it up, or I'm overly tired or stressed, or I should go to the doctor and put me on some meds. But for the last year or so, in my house, something just feels off. Not right, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it started off just at night. But then eventually it ended up being in the morning too. Like a heavy presence, a chill. Like someone or something is or has been watching me. Since I worked in a nursing home, part of me suspected that I might have brought something home with me from work. To this day, I still have no idea where it came from. I'm sure some of you have heard of sleep paralysis. Well, it finally happened to me twice. The first time is one which I will never forget. I wake up in the middle of the night with my eyes wide open, but when I tried to move, I couldn't. It was like I was stuck. The only thing I could move was my eyes and my head slightly. What I saw at the edge of my bed is something I will never forget. It was a tall, dark figure, almost 6 feet tall. Its arms seemed to go on forever. It stretched out its arms to me, slowly reaching me. I felt another sense of fear, dread, and terror. It felt like I was about to die, when the next thing I knew, I woke up and it was gone. Till this day, I have never forgotten this creature. Ever since that nightmare, my house started to feel heavy, dark, cold, like something was following me, watching me. More specifically, I felt a presence around and in my bedroom closet. At first, it was only at night that I would notice it. It wouldn't be all the time. It would come and go, but eventually I felt it during the mornings too. Then months went by, same presence. One night when I was sleeping, I experienced sleep paralysis a second time. I woke up, I couldn't move. The only thing I could move was my eyes. I tried to move my body to get out, to wake up, but this time, instead of the figure at the edge of the bed, I felt hands grabbing at my body, pulling me back into the bed. Somehow I woke up. I was sweating, my heart beating fast and beyond terrified. It literally got to the point where I didn't feel safe or welcome in my own home anymore. To where, if it was possible, I would have lived at my job. Eventually, I went to the store, got incense sticks, and cleaned the house by myself. I had to do that a good couple of times, but it worked. The presence wasn't as bad. The cold chills were fading away. The looming feeling that I was constantly being watched was starting to go away as well. By the time I moved out of the house and sold it, I didn't really think of the presence anymore, but in all honesty, I didn't think it ever left. Whoever or whatever it was never found peace. Want to know the true scary part of this story? If that is all true, believe me or not is up to you, but I know what I saw that night at the foot of my bed. And to this day, the image of the tall dark figure will forever be etched in my mind. The end. At first, it was only at night that I would notice it. It would. One night when I was sleeping, I experienced sleep paralysis. Fuck. This has been Grey Stories. I hope you liked them. Good night.